Hello, boys and girls. So this video is a tutorial on how to do this 2D robot, because I know some people were struggling with some of the ins and outs of it. So I'm going to start sharing my screen so I can go through just how exactly I saw this lesson unfolding. All right, let's begin. All right, so here's one of my finished products. Notice in the background, I have buildings using the gradient tool from that other video. But I'm going to show you guys just how to incorporate multiple shapes, how to manipulate shapes using the direct selection tool and the selection tool, how to combine shapes using the Pathfinder tool, and just how to rearrange layering, how to group some shapes and copy them. So like the arms here, how to kind of do one arm to make two, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's begin. File, new. Again, I'm dealing with just your basic print size paper. So I go to the print option, letter. I personally don't want to see it as points. I'm going to change mine to inches. So 8.5 by 11 inches. You can change the orientation of the page if you want. I'm going to create my blank document. So I'm really dealing with a couple of tools here. You see on the right here, I have my rectangle tool, rounded rectangle, etc., and so forth. So I'm using the tools, the shape tools. I'm going to use the black arrow, the selection tool, the direct selection tool, and I'll start with that. So first, I'm going to make the shape of my head here. Now, if you notice, before I even move off of it, you see a couple of squares, right? So the white square, I can resize it. This little circle I can use to round off all the edges at once, all the way to a circle. So that's just an option there for you. I'm going to actually do one corner with the white arrow, the direct selection tool, in just a minute. So here is the head of my robot. Now, before I begin with anything else, I'm going to add a color. So you have the colors up here. You also can double click on the color icon in your menu bar, which gives you a wide range of colors and values. Okay, so I'm going to use the ones up here though. Oh, let me note that they could also be on your right-hand side too. If you feel like your menu is missing anything that you see on mine that you don't have on yours, you want to go to Window. This is your workspace. So you can always reset your menu by going to Reset Your Essentials, and then everything should be back there. So there's the same swatches that I have up here. I can change the size of my border, right here, so on and so forth. So I got the head, the shape of my robot's head right here, but I want to adjust it a little bit more. I'm going to grab that white arrow, that direct selection tool, to click on one point and click and drag it out. This is going to make my shape a little bit more dynamic, so it's not just a basic square. So I make a trapezoid here. I can even click on a point and I can access the curved point option. So I'm going to curve off the top 2 points a little bit, but leave the bottom there. So that's perfect for my head shape. That's all I want to do for that. Now I'm going to think about what I want the rest of my shape to be. Let's make an eye. And in fact, I'm going to make one eye and copy and paste it for more than one. So I'll start with a rounded rectangle. I'm going to make it white. Then I'm going to switch to, actually, I'll use another rounded rectangle. And I'll make this one dark blue. Okay, I made it separate. I'm going to drag it up inside. I'm going to add a third shape, a little white shine. So I'll use my ellipses tool, make it white, and I will drag it on top. Oop, black arrow, and I'll rotate it. Now, these are 3 separate shapes, 1, 2, 3. Okay. In fact, the shapes I've done so far are all under one layer, layer 1. Here's my layer panel on the right-hand side. So you can see here, 1, 2, 3. Those are my eye shapes. Now, it's kind of annoying to sort of move one at a time, or I select all and I have to move them all at once. We can group these together since I'm not going to change them anymore. So I'm going to take them all, select them all as one object, and I'm going to go up to the top, object, and group. This will combine them together, almost like stapling them together, right? So I'm going to combine all by going to object, group, or the shortcut, as you see there, is Command G. Right, and notice what happens now. Under layer 1, I can see there's a group here and a little tab. So the 3 shapes are still separate. They're all in the same thing. All right, so I got one eye. I'm happy with it. And I can easily copy and paste this for a second eye and then line it up. Command C, Command V. Right, Command C to copy, Command V is to paste. So now I can line them up. So here are the eyes of my robot. And now I'm going to make a nose. Right, so you can kind of systematically figure out what do I want this robot to look like and apply shapes to do that. All right, so here I have a round nose. Let's make it red. Okay. Again, I can use the white arrow to adjust it. These are just options here. So when I use the white arrow, I can pull in my handles if I want. All right. I can reassess, resize stuff. That was pretty good. It's a little too big. Maybe I'll use my black arrow just to make it a little smaller. There we go. Now for a mouth. Right. So I'm going to use my ellipses and I'll use the white arrow to sort of turn up the sides, which will give them a little bit of a smile. So notice I click on the anchor point once, and then I can click and drag it to adjust it more. Okay, and maybe I'll add a little tooth and make that white. Okay. So I'm happy with this for my head, and now let's move on to a body, right? So I'm going to grab a body. I use a rounded rectangle. And let's say I want to take the same color that I have here, that orange color. I could go up here and find it again easily enough, but there's also another way. There's an eyedrop tool, which is here. I can click on that and I can take a color from another part of my artboard, right? So I can pull from other colors there. There's a shortcut for that. It's just the letter I. So if I make my shape and I don't feel like going all the way over here to click on this, I just press the letter I and I get the eyedrop tool again. All right. So there's a lot of shortcuts when you deal with this. In fact, without pressing Control, you can get back to your selection tool by pressing the letter V, and you can get to your direct selection tool by pressing the letter A. So look, I'm pressing letter A on my keyboard. Boop, there's my direct selection tool. So look, I can take corners and I can pull them inward. So not just one corner, although I could, but I could easily select multiple. So I have just the whole corner selected. All right, so there's my basic body. Now I'm realizing this thing is already getting too big for the page. So I'm going to take everything and make it a little bit smaller. Okay, next is how to make arms. So for this, I'm going to use the rectangle tool and I'm going to make one shape and two shape. And I will use the polygon to make like an elbow. All right, I'm going to move that into place. And I'm going to use the eyedrop tool to grab the same red. Okay, so that's my arm, my elbow, my bicep, my elbow, my forearm. I made a claw before, and this is actually a good place to show you about the Pathfinder tool. So the Pathfinder tool allows you to combine shapes, eliminate shapes, minus the front of shapes. You can actually take two shapes and combine them together. So let's say I want to make a claw like you see in this robot, right? So that claw here, I'll show you guys how to make that. So I'm going to start with my polygon. I'm going to put on top of it a rectangle, right? So I'm going to put it on the side, use the black arrow just to kind of line it up on top. So these two are together. So if I select both, what you should see on your right-hand side is the Pathfinder tool kind of opens up for you. You can see you can unite them as one. You can minus the front, which is the one that I'm doing. You can take just what's overlapping or eliminate what's overlapping. So you have a couple different options there. If you don't see this on the right-hand side, simply go to Window and down to Pathfinder, and it should open up as a separate window. And you can see the same things right here. So I have them both lined up, and I hit the second option to minus the front. Now I've got a little claw, right? So I'm going to add that on top. Cool. So I got my arm done, and they're all separate pieces, right? You can see them here on my layers panel. I'm going to select all four and group them again because I'm happy with it. Object. Actually, I'm going to do one other thing. I'm actually going to rotate this shape a little bit to there, so I can connect it to the body in a second. So I'm going to take it. I'm going to group it together. Object, group, or Command G. And you can see what happens. You can actually see a little preview of the arm there, and there's all the shapes underneath it. Okay. So I have this. I like this arm. I'm going to copy it. Command C and Command V. Okay, so now I have the same arm, but it's not facing the right way. I could click and drag it over to the other side, but it's not a guarantee you're going to get it the exact same size that you want. So the slightly longer option, but it's a little bit better because you can easily flip this thing A couple different ways. One, there is a, if you have this thing selected, you should see the transform options opened up on the right. You can see here it flips this way or that way. Or you can actually do it like on an angle, right? So the longer version, just to show you, object, transform, reflect. Object, transform, reflect. I can do that. And you can see it opens up here, and it's the same options, a vertical thing. And now I'm happy with it to line it up. All right. So I went over the Pathfinder tool. I went over how to copy and paste and to flip things. Now let me just play around a little bit more with layering, right? So look, here's my neck. I want this shape to be behind everything else. There's a few ways to do that as well, right? So you can see here on my layers panel, it's the topmost shape. There it is right there. Okay, so I can take this, I can easily drag it lower and lower and lower until it's at the bottom, right? Oops, not fully at the bottom yet. The head is still below it, right? So that's one way to move something back. The other way is to click on it, go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. And then there's also the shortcut. Right, the shortcut is if you press Command and there's a bracket button next to the letter P. And if I have it clicked, you can actually see it moving down. The one next to the letter P, the bracket, I'm pressing Command, bracket is going down one by one. If I press Command, close bracket, it's going to go up or down, depending on which one you use. And that's pretty much it. So I'm not going to add legs to this. I'm going to stop the video now because I feel like that kind of goes through the basics of this assignment. But you want to have a full thing. Oh, let me actually go through backgrounds. So if you want to make a background, I want us to all make backgrounds for robots, even if it's just a solid color. Pretty simple process. You could make it on the same layer, right? I could do it on the same layer and send it to the back, right? So I could take a rectangle easily and make a shape, you know, give it a color or a gradient even, you know, now that we know about gradients, and I could easily send this thing to the back. Object, arrange, send to back. What might even be easier is if I make a new layer. So in my layers panel, right, I have it opened here. There's a little plus sign next to the garbage pail, and I can make a new layer. It's right above layer 1. I'm going to drag it below layer 2. Now I don't have to worry about sending anything to the back because it's on its own layer, and that layer is below my main layer, right? So it's great to keep separate parts of a project on separate layers. So I'm going to make 2 shapes, one for the ground and one for the sky. Feel free to add more. In my other teacher example, I was able to add like some rectangles that I thought looked like buildings or something. It's up to you. Actually, I'll do green. Green, say another point. All right, I'll get rid of this. Boom. Now my guy doesn't have legs, but if he does, let's add some legs. Go back to layer 1 and I'll add a nice leg. Do my eyedrop tool for that. I'll copy and paste this, 2 legs, and I'll add some feet in a little while. All right, so there is a nice, quick, easy way to do a 2D robot. Now, if you want to add gradients to these, same thing applies, right? So I could add a gradient to these. Take this, change it to yellow to orange, right? Maybe change it to radial if I want to. I can resize this. This is all from the last video, right? Move it around, redrag it, whatever you might want to do to make these things look even cooler. All right, and look, you know what's kind of neat? So I did one gradient. I can easily use my eyedrop tool to apply the same gradient to other parts. All right, so that's it. When you're done, file, save as. I'm going to save it to my computer. I'm going to save it under my documents folder. Maybe I'll make a new folder called Hendrick Digital Art if you don't have one already. I already have one like that. Create, and I'm going to call this Hendrick 2D Robot 2. You save it as an Illustrator document or a PDF. PDF will be easier to upload. And that is it. All right, I'll stop the video. Sorry, it was a little long, but it went through a lot of stuff. I'm going to put it on the harbor. So, well, why am I telling you that? Because you'll be watching it on the harbor. All right, here's our resource. Use it. Okay, that's it.